Okay.
Well, hello
Um,
everyone. So I just want to say welcome to the National Federation of the Blind, day 2 of week 4 of Zoom workshops. We are the National Federation of the Blind of Colorado. We invite everyone who might not already be a member to become a member, either in Colorado here, if you're from our great state, or if you might be from somewhere else, we can help to connect you with your local affiliate if you are not already connected. We do want to remind everyone that we have great programming going on the rest of this week. Tomorrow we'll have a workout. We're all going to be doing a blind alive workout together. Thursday we're going to have a guide dogs meeting where we'll have representatives from schools as well as guide dog users. And Friday, we are going to have a happy hour where Maureen is going to teach us how to make a delicious chili dip. And then we're all going to share our favorite drink recipes and something that makes us happy. So tune in the rest of the week. We'll be announcing next week's schedule as well. And I will turn it over to Maureen to see if she has any other opening remarks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Just another reminder, if you're in Colorado, our public team hotline, you can call 303-778-1130, extension 219, and you can always email us at assistance@nfbco.org. That's assistance@nfbco.org. And thank you, JJ and Curtis, for doing this for us tonight.
Absolutely. And so we'll turn it over now to JJ and Curtis. I'm really excited to have both of these gentlemen, and they're going to tell us all about some cool new tech toys and also help us answer some of those pesky tech questions that we often have. So take it away, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hey.
I just want to say, JJ, that at the last thing I did in Colorado with technology, I played the role of somebody who was purportedly against technology and who claimed that technology reduced our level of independence. And I am happy to answer questions and to continue to play that role, because over the last week, I think I've gotten more phone calls and more questions about little crazy things that people didn't, have working right for them, that it has confirmed my belief that while many aspects of technology can be fun, and I hope we can talk some about the fun stuff, there are also almost the same number of aspects of technology that are not fun. And as they say, when it works, it's fantastic, and when it doesn't work, it's a pain in the you-know-what.
Oh, yeah. A bit of that banquet speech from last year. Very interesting. That was one of the more intriguing ones to me, talking about all that. So yeah, so we have not planned this. We haven't even talked. So I think we're just gonna wing it. I can lay out a couple of things that I can bring to the table, Curtis, and you can add to that. I
Feel
guess.
free, go right ahead.
But I know there's certainly can go into a bit about. There were some questions before we started about some of the things that are out there for remote. Zoom is the one that everyone is familiar with, but there are some other things that you could do as far as technology. I also personally, of course, use a lot of technology for groceries and for food delivery, way too much before and after COVID, and other things like that. So happy to talk about any other apps to that. I also, before all this started, or just as it was starting, I came back from the CSUN Assistive Technology Conference and did learn about some new technology. There's an article in the APRO Access World about that. That is afb.org/aw, including a device that I believe you sent me, Curtis,
Oh,
from Orbit.
oh yes, the Orbit Writer. Absolutely.
Right here.
Yeah.
And that now I have.
So for those people who like to write in Braille, who use the computer or the iPhone, and you just are longing for a keyboard that lets you input in whatever Braille, Orbit has now announced an Orbit Writer device. And it's a very tiny little thing, about the size, a little bit larger than an iPhone, actually, but it's just as thin. And it communicates via Bluetooth to your iPhone, Android, or iPhone device. Or you can even use it as a Braille input device for your computer, as long as you're running JAWS or NVDA. And I personally think the writer is great for when you want to use something on the iPhone and you just want to write a text. And most people who know Braille in
Yeah.
the past have had to carry around a Braille display or use Braille screen input, both of which have their own set of problems. And now Orbit is saying this is, I gather it's going to be about $100.
Yep.
And it's a pretty cool little thing. It has the same keys as the Orbit Reader. Most of you probably haven't touched the Orbit Reader, but the keys work pretty well. And so that was one of the announcements that they made. They also made an announcement about a 40-cell Braille display, which they hope to sell by the summer, called the Orbit Reader 40. And they're going to sell that for about $14.99 or $13.99. Yeah, $13.99. Yep. So that is by far the cheapest 40-cell Braille display I have heard about. So there's that coming down the pipe.
Sure. And in the interest of full disclosure, my day job is running a company called AT Guys. We are going to sell these things, but I do think they're really cool. The writer, I'm holding it in my hand. Cooler new things that are out there this year. We saw it,
no, let me say, as a person who doesn't work for you, that I have tried to send a bunch of people over to your company to talk with you about the blind shell. And there was an article about the blind shell in the Braille Monitor. I can't remember whether it was
February,
March, I think. Yeah. And the blind shell is for those people who find the touch screen to be intimidating and really don't want a full smartphone, is a candy bar type cell phone with real buttons that talks out of the box. And it is not available from your cell phone provider. You have to buy it from JJ at AT Guys. And
there it is.
Oh, that it's talking right there. It's very clear, as you can see. And somebody did ask me if it would run Uber, and I said no, it's not that kind of phone. But if you're looking for a phone with a little bit of smarts, things like texting, email reading, internet radio, and you can even plug in a headphone and have FM radio as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you can dictate into it. So if you're texting and you don't want to use the number keypad, so there's another thing that is JJ is selling, and I think that it's made in Czechoslovakia, but there's it's sold in the United States. The key thing is you have to be on a GSM cell phone network, right? And that's not Verizon.
That is correct. Right. So AT&T, T-Mobile, Metro, I believe, is in part of that.
And I think Cricket is too.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of smaller ones.
Anybody who's using AT&T or T-Mobile as their backbone, this phone would work. And the basic idea is you buy the phone, you get the phone, and then you go to the phone store once this business of staying home is over, and you get them to put to get you a SIM card, and you sign up for a plan, and you put the SIM card in the phone, and you are off and running.
Definitely, very cool. I appreciate you mentioning.
And
that,
there's worlds of YouTubes if you just Google the word.
Yes. Sam did a ton. Sam Siva, he's put out dozens, every single little feature on that phone. So I think there's certainly types of there are people that definitely will benefit from something like that, and it's been popular so far. Hopefully we have a convention in October. I can bring it to you, or a convention in July. We
believe the odds are very high that we're going to have a convention in October, unless something really crazy
October, yes.
July we don't know yet.
July is we're just gonna wait and see.
Yeah.
But we're doing a lot of remote stuff. I know, thanks to Colorado too. You guys are doing all sorts of cool stuff. So there are ways to describe things locally. And by the way, that stuff is at atguys.com for anyone who wants to check that out. And I can always give you contact info at the end. So the Orbit Writer does not. So here's the difference. So the Orbit Writer is the question that came out in the chat. Cassie, I believe. Cool. The Orbit Writer is just the Braille keyboard. So essentially it's a Braille display without the Braille. And what that does is it saves you a bunch of money and a little bit of size. So if you want the Orbit with the Braille display, you can get the 20 cell for now it's $6.99. The price is kind of edged up a little bit, although they've added a few new features, Braille translation and a couple other things. And then the 40 is going to be $13.99. The 20 is out now. The 40 and the Writer will be out. All things they think they were going to still be on pace for summer. They got a lot of their stuff in before all the COVID stuff hit. So with a little bit of luck, and we should, the summer is still looking like a good possibility.
Yep. And just today, incidentally, for those of you who are iPhone users, if I was in a real live room with real people, I could say raise your hand or say I or do something to tell me how many of you are using iPhones. But Apple just came out with a small update to iOS 13 today, 13.4.1, and none of the fixes that are in there pertain to anybody except if you want to do FaceTime with somebody who's running a real old version of the iPhone. Apparently, when 13.4 came out, it broke the ability. So if you're running iOS 9, I don't know if people are still running iOS 9, but apparently there were enough to force Apple to come out with a fix. So they came out with that, and it fixes also problems with Bluetooth if you try to turn Bluetooth on or off through the control center instead of the phone. So that was another thing.
Yeah. I'm not sure who's managing mutes, and I think you can unmute yourself. Is how we have it. I see Liz raised a hand. Do you want to take questions now or wait till later, or what do you want to do?
It's up. I don't know. I'm happy to take Kevin. If you want to just chime in, let us know who's got a hand raised.
I saw Liz had one, and there might be others.
I say let's take them.
All right, good.
I was just gonna say that you can actually raise your hand in Zoom.
Yep. So on the computer, that's Alt Y.
And on the phone, it's *9.
Yeah. And phone, as in if you would call in on the phone.
Right. And if you're on the iPhone, you have to, using the app, you have to go to the More section and then double tap the raise your hand button. So, yep. Toys. What do I use in technology that's a toy?
Yeah, oh my gosh, yeah.
You got toys. Talk about toys.
Oh man, I have so many. Okay. Good grief. Where to start? As far as AT guys is concerned, I got quite a few products from you guys. I got a couple of I have a Bluetooth headset that's a Blue Tiger soundtracks. Boy, that's a lifesaver.
Do you have any questions, Kayla? We'll do that.
Oh yeah. I do have a question though.
Go ahead.
About So, what do they add on the new Orbit Reader 20?
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
No problem. Sorry, I'm trying to. I was trying to reply to the chat. Okay, so first of all, I should mention that myself and Shelly Brisbane were at CSUN, and we did a lot of audio podcasts. Those are still being uploaded.
Are they still being made?
Yep. We recorded a bunch at CSUN, and instead of rushing them out on one day, they're getting posted as time goes on, and there has been one posted on Orbit. So that's over at blindbargains.com. The Reader 20 Plus, so the plus is for the new features. The translation is one, so meaning now you can load in books that are not already in Braille, and you can have them translated into Braille directly. So that was a thing that wasn't available on the original one. The other ones are kind of some small things, clock and calendar and calculator and little things like that are also now built in.
I'm wondering what are the other cool stuff you got on stuff that's updated Denver.
What?
Oh my gosh.
No, you're fine. You want to know about other cool things that have come out? We covered the two newest. That's probably the brand new newest things. We were talking a little while ago about the way around tags too. That's another one that's kind of newer. I'm not sure if you're familiar with those.
Way around where you can put a marker on an object and then. Sitting, but you don't want to, have people make all kinds of noise while the speech is going on, right? So in theory, you could use that to place it on your table, tell one of your colleagues to hold on to it. I used to say to my sighted colleagues when I was at a meeting, I'd say, "You're my homing beacon. When I get close, you have to let me know where you are." But I don't like to do that because that takes away their attention from the thing. So having something like that might be the solution to my problem if I ever have to be in a large hall and I have to get back to my spot again.
Yeah, they're very cool. Absolutely.
Now,
Yeah,
for I don't know if you guys yesterday in the games thing talked about a lot of the blindfold games that are on the iPhone. Did you guys talk about that yesterday, Kevin?
Yeah.
I mean, the person who did the blindfold games, there's a heck of a lot of stuff in there. If you want them, like blindfold air hockey, blindfold pinball, blindfold, oh my gosh. I mean, they're
yeah,
just,
he is dozens.
yeah. Battleship, I think was one. And so if you are using an iPhone and you just want a chance to chill out and have some fun, the blindfold games are really and that's a technology that's built into your iPhone and might give somebody a reason to use it. And there are other, what is it, Audio Arcade or something, and I actually downloaded a couple of other games on the iPhone, and I found out that even though I got excited about them initially, then I stopped playing them because I didn't have enough time to do it.
All right.
So
Kevin?
that's, and I'm trying to think if I purchased any toys. Whoa, hello. That's not technology. That's a train.
Yes, it was.
Worley, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. I want to tell everybody that on our Colorado Talk today, people did put the list of games from yesterday's call that Brett has sent out, and we'll be putting some of those in our Blind Colorado that we'll be releasing probably tomorrow. We'll keep running a games feature. I think that's a great idea. I had no idea that there's so much interest in the game. I cannot get it to dictate, and then it won't send after that. If it's an easy answer, answer it. Otherwise, tell me to.
No, that's a very important question. I sent a note. The only way, it's really hard to report problems to Zoom, especially if you're not a paying customer. And I did just today send a note. There's under the accessibility link, they give you an email address like accessibility@zoom.us or something like that. Whether that will result in any useful information, I don't know. I think it's rather ironic that a company that has done so well with making the Zoom thing work for the blind on the iPhone and the computer. And JJ, have you tried it with Android? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it works. It works just fine. Again, just like everything else with Zoom, it works a lot better when you're on a headset, at least as far as not having your phone bleed through.
Same here. I use earbuds when I'm on the phone if I'm going to participate. But the bug that Kevin refers to is one that I have been able to replicate, where when you are in the chat window and you try to use the keyboard on the phone or dictate or braille screen input, none of those enables you to do it. So if you want to do chat,
you do on the computer. I've not tried on Android. I have not tried to chat when on a meeting on the phone.
But what it just says is attachment. You can't get it to do anything.
That's correct.
Is that it did it when I first started doing this, Chris, and I'll drop off Kevin for that. But
they might have broken something, or actually, either they broke it or Apple broke it.
Yeah, because originally, say 3 weeks ago, Kev, you'll recall this, I wasn't able to do it for one of our calls, and then from then on, I haven't been able to. Anyway, I'm out.
Does Zoom have an accessibility at zoom.us email? I'm not sure if that. I know
it does.
Yeah, so you might try emailing them, or if somebody hasn't already, and try that. I see. We have a 408 raised hand.
Yeah.
Hey there. Hey there. What's your name?
Yeah, this is Tom.
Hey, Tom.
Yeah, I have a question, if you can, on this. I have an iPhone, like it, love it, everything is great, but I was thinking about getting something like this Jitterbug or this new clamshell, which I don't know about. And I'm wondering, is there any comparison between the two? It's just my purpose as a backup phone.
Okay, Tom, I'll tell you, because I'm not selling, so.
Sure.
Let me say that the blind shell, which is a candy bar phone, it's not a clamshell phone, it's a candy bar phone, is not equivalent to the iPhone in terms of feature. So you know how on the iPhone you can install apps from a gazillion different people, and you can remove them, and you can do all kinds of other stuff. With the iPhone, it's like a computer, except it has a touch screen with voiceover. The blind shell has a set of fixed apps which may or may not be updated or fixed I saw December. There was an update in December for the blind shell, I think. And so periodically, from time to time, the company will issue an update which you can put into the blind shell, but it's a semi-smartphone. In other words, it has some things that make it look like a smartphone, but you can't run the same apps that you're used to running on your iPhone. In particular, reading books from Bard, like Bard Mobile or Lyft, Uber, right? Those are not apps that you're going to find on the blind shell. You will find things like color identifier. You will find things like an email reader, a couple of radio players, MP3 audio type book players. You'll find, and that's I'm sure there are other. It's a pretty feature rich phone, but it's if what you want is a backup phone, and kudos to you if you can afford to buy a backup phone. It's actually good as a backup phone if your intent is to make and receive calls and do some texting and maybe read some emails.
So he compared it to the Jitterbug, though. But I think that was part of his question.
Oh yeah, well,
the Jitterbug does not have many accessibility features at all.
The least of which is it doesn't have any speech output. You can just forget that, right? So that's one of the ironies of Jitterbug, of course, as a phone for seniors who might or might not be going blind, is that there's no speech output on any of the Jitterbug phones. And so while it might be simple, if you are happy not to have something talk to you, as soon as you want to know who's calling or as soon as you want to navigate the menus independently, there's no way that you can really do that unless you get the Android version, and then you got to start learning TalkBack, and that's not bad. But if the goal is simplicity and ease of learning, the many seniors that I've worked with, for them that would be too much. My father-in-law, who's 92 years old, for example, he has the basic flip phone Jitterbug, and that's all he wants. He's not blind, by the way, so for him, the lack of speech is not a problem.
Thank you.
No problem. Barbara has a hand raised.
Wondering, can you hear me?
Well,
yes.
I was wondering the book that Jonathan Mosen has about Zoom.
Oh, yeah.
Since it's a few years old, is there anything different in that book? I mean, is reading it going to teach us everything that is up to date? I mean, current, has much changed?
It's about it. There's some minor little differences, but you won't notice. For example, I learned this myself because I was doing screen sharing, and in his screen sharing section, for example, he says that you have to share a specific app or a specific window in your Windows computer. But in reality, you can share the entire screen, which was new. And so, but I haven't found anything that's so different that you would find his book to be of no value. And I have to say, it's very well put together as a book, and you don't have to read it from cover to cover unless you want to. I was working with somebody yesterday who actually was able to download the zip file onto their iPhone and get it in the Voice Dream Reader, which I thought was pretty cool, so they could listen to it on the phone. Yeah, good. It's so I think his audio quality is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it's very graphic, graphic in a good way. You get to hear a lot of the interaction with the computer, and I think that's really important, and the phone, because heck, we're blind, so if we can hear what the speech is going to say when we're trying to manipulate something, it gives us a better feel for how to use the program, and he's done a really good job with that. And I thank Jonathan Mosen personally and for the record for giving this book out for free for the next few months. Good for him.
Very cool. Yeah. By the way, screen share itself, I believe, is still not accessible as far as we cannot. If someone else does a screen share, we have no way of really accessing that, right?
That's correct.
One thing that you can do if you're with another blind person or someone who understands screen readers is when you share your screen, there's a box that you can click that says also share computer. Which there's a couple, they announced a couple of them earlier this year, starting in Florida and also at CSUN. So again, we're at Blind Bargers, we've covered a lot of that. So there's the Mantis, which is a 40 cell, and there's a Chameleon, which is a 20 cell. So these are what I'm now terming as traditional Braille displays. In other words, the Braille technology is what you're used to seeing over the past 10, 20 plus years. The traditional field braille sells. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just it's the price that you paid for that technology. The 20 cell, I guess, would almost be the spiritual successor to the refresher braille in that it does 20 cells of braille. It has a few extra apps on it. It has more modern things, Bluetooth, comparing to multiple devices. It has a few extra features as well, and it's in that $1,500 range. The Mantis Q40 is perhaps even a little more interesting because it's an entire QWERTY keyboard with a braille display on it. So if you love the idea of a braille display, but you don't like the idea of a braille, it's the one to go to.
Hey, what comes around goes around.
There's been keyboards. I mean, you probably know more than I do. There's been entire computers, right? There was the Mina.
Yeah, but there was the Braille Light in the Braille Light family, right, from Blazy.
Yeah.
He came out with the Braille Light with 40 cells and a QWERTY keyboard, and then
but it has a whole note taker where this is more display. This is display first, so I guess that's the one difference, right? There's no.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's speech on it or not, but so that's essentially they're both well built. If you like those designs, and I mean it's APH conjunction with humanware, so it's going to be quality products. I wouldn't have any worry about that. I haven't seen them much more than that, other than the fact that they look like you would expect a modern display to work, and they're pretty slick.
Yeah, and they cost about the same as a modern display, right? There's no real. Exactly. I mean, 20 cells is from APH for the Mantis. What is that? 14.
The Mantis, yeah. The Chameleon's a 20, and that's about 14 or 15.
Chameleon, and then
the Mantis Q40 is about 25 or 26.
Which is actually within the price range, right? So. A lot of people will still get them because they got other people to pay for them, which is fine. I mean, the market must be there. So the thing about Braille displays, frankly, and this is something that is true for all Braille displays, is you want to practice the same good hand washing efforts that you do to prevent the virus from attacking you, right?
Yeah.
And that way you'll make the thing last longer before you have to send it in for cleaning or for repair, because there's nothing more aggravating than dots that won't come up or dots that get stuck up or whatever. That's the thing about Braille displays that I don't like, but I don't see a way to fix them, that way. It's just because it's mechanical.
Maureen, you have a question?
I know there's more hands raised. I wish there were some more Zoom keyboard shortcuts to focus the various. I think JAWS has spreader scripts, right?
How do you know when somebody's raised their hand? That's my question.
So if you go to the user list, if you're a host, you go to the user list, the people on the top, the raised hands will get moved to the top, but right below the ones that are recording.
As soon as I press home.
Mm-hmm. And then so you can go down to the first one that says hand raised. In fact, and we're getting alerts too. It says. And since we have host capabilities, right, you could tab after you see a person. You can hit lower hand once you start answering their question.
Maureen, you can unmute yourself. It's not
there it is.
There you go.
Hello. I had a question, guys, about so at Christmas I just got the Alexa Show, and I got it so I could hold products in front of it and say, "What is this?" And I was wondering if if there's a way to have it read like directions or product information, or if it identifies like anything else that I don't know about other than just food stuff.
No, I mean unless they've added it. So what she's asking about the Echo Show, and it has to be at least the 8-inch Echo Show, because there's a smaller one, has the feature was mentioned that you can say, "What is this?" and you can hold something in front of the camera and it will try to identify it, similar to how your apps on your phone might do that. But yeah, unfortunately, to my knowledge, it currently just gives the product name. Now, you certainly could try. Alexa and Google both are good at answering a lot of just abstract questions. If I were to say, "Hey, what's her name?" "Hey, G, give me the directions for Hot Pockets," it actually will, in a lot of cases, will pull up that information. So I've been able to do that sometimes by just asking questions.
So what I find rather interesting about the evolution of the Echo products, I suppose, is you know how when companies release a product that doesn't have a screen on them, that's how the Echo got started, right? Yep. The Echo One, the Echo Tap, the Echo, it was great because everything would talk and all the responses would talk and you didn't have to take a look at the screen. Now that they have the Echo Show and Echoes with screens on them, when you receive the equipment, you have to actually get a little bit of help in order to get the screen reader to work on there. I remember when I was at the Amazon booth and I was sort of complaining about this, and I said, this is every time you guys start putting screens on stuff, and it's not just Amazon, it's anybody. As soon as the screens come on, then the audio takes a back seat.
Yeah. Take a look at the screen for more information. No, yeah, exactly. Want to do that.
Well, how often does she who must not be named say to you, look, like the grocery list, for example, right? So you can do a grocery list, you can add to it, but the only way you can get at it is if you use the Alexa app to be able to do that. And for some people, that's great, but I will tell you that, and I don't know if I think this is a good or a bad thing, but the senior services programs, they think that the Echo is the greatest thing for seniors who are blind. And I think that it could be, except that when it doesn't work, then they have no way to fix it unless they have a friend or a kid or somebody who can help them.
Well, it's like everything else, right? I mean, how many people, unfortunately, were handed iPhones and told that they could just use Siri for everything? And of course, we know that's not an official use of an iPhone. And never learned how to interact with the touchscreen. So it's a lot of it's just the training or the lack of training that's provided. And maybe some of this Zoom stuff ends up continuing past COVID, which would be probably very helpful.
I think it will. I think
I think so. It's really interesting, right? Because every affiliate says, "Oh, we need to do more with tech training." Well, if we can get someone, instead of every single affiliate running a weekly whatever class, let's consolidate some of this knowledge. And I think there's a lot of ideas. I don't know. I see Maureen has a hand raised. I'm not sure if that was already answered.
Yeah. Real quick though, Maureen, is there a general email box, or who would somebody email at the CCB? There's a question in the chat, and you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm sorry. What was the question? A email?
Somebody wants like a general or an assistance email or something for the CCB.
I think it was the one you gave out earlier. They were asking to have it spelled.
Oh, that is for the NFBCO. So that's just assistance@nfbco.org. Assistance.
You can send to that, and then whoever checks it can send them on, right?
Yes. Yeah. So if you have a question that needs to go to someone at the center, you can send it to that email, and we can get it to the right person without a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have Liz. Liz.
I actually forgot my question now. Sorry.
It's okay. Just raise your hand again when you think of it. All right, and then phone number ending in 5335.
Yeah, this is Jan Bailey, and I just wanted to say that Alexa will read your shopping list, but she won't take things off of it.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll read it, but you have to go into the app to remove things. So that could become a problem eventually. And a lot of the seniors aren't comfortable going into the app.
Yep.
Yeah, I have noticed that. And if some of you remember from the last NFB of Colorado convention when I opined about the fact that a lot of the technology we use is designed by engineers who think like engineers. They do not think like regular people, and thereby placing an extra burden cognitively on those people who want to use technology who don't necessarily want to be techies. But in order for us to use it, we have to get good at this technology stuff, because if we don't, we're only going to be using some of the features and not all of them.
Someone wrote in the chat, I'm not sure what you mean by saying screen reader does not work in Alexa. I'm not sure where, there's several different places that could apply to, so maybe be a little more specific, or if you're not sure if you're making a question or if you just are making a comment.
Liz.
Screen reader doesn't work on Alexa, yeah.
Yes. Yesterday, an email or a website was given to subscribe to be able to get the games list from yesterday. Can anyone tell me that website?
They just put the list out on Facebook and Colorado Talk.
I'm not on Facebook. Is that through nfbnet.org?
It is.
Yes.
It's already been posted,
Okay.
so you won't get it that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah, you'll probably want to put your email in the chat or something, and I can try to get somebody to send it to you.
Okay, sure. Thanks.
Somebody just pointed out that you can take the stuff off the grocery list.
Yeah. So that what is the app? So they're syncing an app to their Alexa. There are a lot of third-party apps I know that you can use to sync lists and things like that.
No, the one they're talking about is AnyList. ANYLIST.
Oh,
Okay.
any list. Jaws says any list.
It would be any list.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
Thanks,
any.
Kev. Thanks, Kev. My comment, I just want to reiterate, because sometimes I think it's hard for people to hear. Rather than continuing to ask various websites or whatever when it comes to what we're doing on the Colorado Zoom, just send the email to assistance@nfbco.org. We will get that, and we'll get right back to you with direction on how to get on Colorado Talk, or how to reach AT guys, or how to get the blog. Just go ahead and send it to assistance@nfbco.org. And I know folks have said that, but I think it's been hard to hear on occasion. Thanks, Kev.
Thanks, Kev.
Thanks, Kev.
All right.
So does everybody know who isn't already?
Sorry, Curtis.
Okay, so I was just wanting to make sure that I reiterate the fact that Freedom Scientific, for those people who have a Windows machine and who need some extra thing with it, that JAWS and Fusion and stuff are all available for the next few months from Freedom Scientific for free. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to rent them. I have been a big proponent of the home license for JAWS, because one of the frustrations that a lot of people who want JAWS have is the paying of the $1,000 for the software. And during this crisis that we're in right now, Freedom Scientific is offering the whole suite of the JAWS, Fusion, ZoomText, whatever, for free until I think it's the end of June, if my memory serves. And you can see that right on their homepage, freedomscientific.com. So I want to make sure I reiterate that, because for some people that's a big, important deal to know. And I will also say, just because I think this way, that it used to be that edge was a 4-letter word that we would just soon not mention, you know, for those people who went to Windows 10, because it never did work.
No.
Well, the latest version of Edge, the Chromium-based one, actually, I found my experience over the last month or two has been that I'm using it as much as I used to use Internet Explorer before I started putting on all these other browsers, and I rarely now have to switch away from Edge to a different browser to get my work
it's
done.
gotten a lot better. The 4-letter word, even though it's not 4 letters, if you are using Internet Explorer, stop. Anything else but that. You should not be using that at this point. There's too many security holes. It's not being updated. Edge, Chrome, Firefox are all better choices.
So I'm getting lots of calls and inquiries. JJ, just I don't know what your thought is about this, but you know, people are saying, I heard that support for Windows 7 is ending, and I've been using it for the last 5 years, and what am I going to do? The traditional rule of thumb is, well, it's time to update to Windows 10, but then a lot of people don't have anybody to help them do it, right?
Right.
And I have been seesawing back and forth, depending upon who the people are, about whether they should upgrade to Windows 10. If it's a person who never goes anywhere on the internet except Bard, for example, or the NFB website, the odds are not zero, but the probability of them getting a bad thing on the computer is low. And then you say, well, how much pain do you want? How much money do you want to spend? Or can you afford to spend? And what should you do? Ideally, you should go to Windows 10. Ideally, it's easier to go to Windows 10 if you buy a brand new computer, but some people don't have that luxury. They might have to just upgrade in place.
I'm trying to see what the drop dead date is.
What, for Windows 7?
Right. It was theoretically it was this year, right?
It is January 13th
of this year.
Yeah, it's done. They won't support you anymore.
Yeah.
No more update, anything.
Yeah, it's now Windows 7 is probably patched better, say, than XP was, but eventually it's one of those things. It should be on your shorter list of things to think about. as far as upgrades, I will say if anyone's scared about things being quite a bit different, 10 is not the jump from 7 to 10. While there's a few things that operate a bit differently, it's not. I don't find it to be. It wasn't life-changingly different. I skipped straight from 7 to 10 and never did 8. It seems to do this every other version thing.
Yeah, I did it too, and frankly, I can configure a 10 computer for anybody who, so that you won't even know the difference. You won't know.
Yeah, and it's been getting regular updates, and as a nice backup screen reader, narrator has come a long, long way from where it was in Windows 7, and I'm not ready to recommend it as anyone's primary screen reader, but it's certainly it's a very suitable backup now, and actually sometimes has saved me.
I see Scott's got his hand raised.
Scott, you got a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, JJ and Curtis, so much for doing this. I love listening to you guys. I have two questions. I was a little unclear, JJ, when you mentioned the Orbit Writer. I wasn't clear whether that is out now or coming out in the summer.
In the summer.
And in that product, I'd love to buy it from you. And second, do you guys have any opinions about which Braille display works best pairing with an iPhone?
I mean, I think all of them, any of your modern display, I don't have a lean one way or the other.
Well, the thing that Apple has done with the interface to Braille displays, it's pretty much made them the interface standard across all the different models that are explicitly supported. So really, there's no real difference between any of them, and so then it comes down to how fast do you want the display to refresh, how many cells do you want, how much are you willing to pay, So from an iPhone perspective, there really isn't that much enough variation that I could call out one display and say, here's the one you absolutely have to have. I will also point out that being the curmudgeon that I am with regard to technology, I have a Braille display. I do use a Braille display, but I do not use it with my iPhone because the odds are that when I actually need to write on the iPhone, I won't have the Braille display with me. And so I have grown to recognize a couple things. Number one, Apple has this thing called Braille Screen Input, which I personally thought was absolutely marvelous for many of the basic things you do with your iPhone. What I have also learned the hard way is that, excited as I am about that feature and as cool as I think it is for me, I have noticed that a lot of people with whom I work who are Braille users have a fair amount of difficulty getting it to work for them.
Yeah.
And by the way, Curtis, one of the things we love about you is the fact that you're a curmudgeon.
Thank you very much.
And what about the writer? Is that out or coming out?
So
summertime.
This summer, if I may do a business thing for 10 seconds, atguys.com/orbit will get you on the pre-order. But hey, there's an in it for you too. Besides that, we're gonna pick one person from whoever fills out that form to give one for free. So atguys.com/orbit.
And wait, there's more. No.
Well, the question I have is, so we have the Orbit Reader Basic, which doesn't do any translation, and the Orbit Reader 20 Plus has been announced.
Yep.
And I gather there is an upgrade path for people who already own Orbits. But
Correct.
Are they dropping the 20 Basic line, or
No. I mean, it would be hard for me to recommend it to a new person. It's only gonna be $100 cheaper. I mean, unless that, I know for some people that might be a huge differentiator, but for $100 difference, I would think the Plus at $699 versus the Basic at $599.
At $599, yeah, there's hardly any real.
There's going to be, I don't know the price on the upgrade path yet.
Daniel Garcia with a question.
Who had a question?
Daniel Garcia.
Oh.
Yeah, hi. This is Daniel Garcia from Kansas City. A couple of things, not so much questions, but comments. For those people that want to get the list of games from the Colorado Talk, you can go to the archives. Every mailing list, as you know, has an archive. You can go there and get it. Number two, I recently made the transition from Windows 7 to 10, and what I did is I used the Be My Eyes chat, the Microsoft channel basically, and it was very easy. But halfway to the process, the computer started talking to me. I don't know what magic word I must have said, but I continued with the person from Microsoft, but really the computer really started talking to me halfway through the process. so it's very easy. Now, I do have a question though. You were
Okay.
talking about the Echo show before and about showing it things. Of course, I don't have an Echo, but I do use the Seeing AI app quite a bit, and the channel that I have difficulty with is the products channel, and I try to read, I try to scan the barcode, and even if it's not an off-brand product, even if it's like a well-known brand product, I can't seem to get it to work a lot of the time. Do you have any tips for that, or is there a problem with that channel?
Do you mean it doesn't identify the product, or do you mean like are you able to locate the barcode, or are you having trouble locating the barcode?
I mean, I'm able to locate the barcode. I put the phone all over
and then it says product not found.
And it just says and it doesn't, it just says nothing. It just says product.
Okay, so it sounds like it's not even. If it doesn't say not found, to me it sounds like you haven't. Your positioning is probably a little bit. It's pretty finicky, I found, as far as getting it exactly. You kind of, when you get into the really fast beep, you have to hold it there for a couple of seconds.
Okay.
Or try. Yeah, it's if it doesn't say not found, that means it hasn't recognized or it hasn't caught the barcode yet. Because if it catches the barcode and the product would not be found, it would say this product is not found.
So I'm going to say, as a person who doesn't rely too much on, barcode reading on anything with the iPhone, frankly, I have found to be problematic if you do not know precisely where the barcode is. Now, if you have I don't know if you still have that, but I bought from you the fantastic thing that you plug into your USB port, and then you got a modern barcode scanner. Something like that for if you're going to scan a lot of products is way better, because you can just wave it very quickly and it will find where the barcode is, and then go off and do that. That's the advantage that the more expensive technologies have, as opposed to trying to read products on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Because the iPhone camera is really slow.
Yeah, it is.
Compared to what a barcode scanner would do.
In addition to that, sometimes I just end up using short text and trying to get enough information about it that way. As far as products, of course, there's also the 5-minute free iRecalls and Be My Eyes and those type of things as well. But I agree that you don't always want to do that. So there's 10 different ways to do it.
Yeah, right. There is, and Ira for 5 minutes is not bad. I will say, so somebody raised a question about Bluetooth keyboards.
Yeah.
If you're doing it for iPhone or for the i-type products and you want to be able to do multi-stations, I use one called the Logitech K380, which is a multi-station Bluetooth keyboard. And it takes two AAA batteries, I think, and you can get it for $35, $40. Logitech makes many good keyboards. I use one on my computer all the time. And so that one for iOS is actually pretty good. They claim they work with Windows as well if you use the Bluetooth interface, but here's my problem. By default in Windows, we need the function keys to be function keys, and by default the Logitech K380 does not have the function keys to be function keys. You have to hold on the FN key, and they say, you can install this great Logitech software to fix that problem, and if you do it, you find that then other weird things start to happen on your computer. So I don't like the K380 as much for Windows as I do for the iOS product, but for the iOS product, it works.
We got a Belkin. Chad's using a wired Belkin. So there's a couple of questions I guess I would ask you on Bluetooth. You, whoever that was that asked the question about keyboards. How portable do you want it? Do you want to carry it in a backpack with you? Do you want full size keys? Do you want it to fold? These are different things that can be considered. Are the function keys and arrows important to you? That might also help us steer us in the direction. There's a whole bunch of hands raised. Is that Alira?
Oh, yep. Hello.
Hey.
So, I had a question about the. Just Jaws. I'm sorry about that. Jaws is blabbering. I had a question about the blind shell because so if I were to, I have Cricket now and I use an iPhone, so my carrier is Cricket Wireless. But if I were to get the blind shell, would I be able to just take my SIM card out of my iPhone and then just import it? Or stick it into the blind shell?
If your iPhone has a SIM, I know iPhone has some of the iPhones have smaller SIM cards or eSIMs. I think some of the iPhones have nano SIMs versus, it's a different size SIM card. So it's going to depend on what what specific iPhone you have and what kind of SIM card's in it.
If I were
Theoretically,
you, I'd go to the Cricket store and get them to help you do it, because
yeah.
the one thing you don't want to do
Now
is
again, that
break.
might not be possible now.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Maybe
Oh,
that's why
right.
she's
No,
asking.
you're right.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
You certainly can email us after. We can try to figure out what iPhone and see if that what might be possible.
Yeah, I have an iPhone 8, so.
Yeah, sure. Feel free to. I'll give my contact info at the end as well. Cheers.
Cars. You can unmute yourself, Cars. It's not letting me do it. There you go.
Hi there.
How do you say your name?
So Karis.
Oh, it's Karis with an H.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
So I had a question about, so I'm using the Braille Note Touch. I just started training on it. And I was learning how to connect it to my phone to be able to send messages and things like that. And the question I had is that I know that when you're using it on my phone, I have an iPhone. In order to utilize it on my phone and to send messages or really do any kind of typing on my phone, I have to utilize the 7 and 8 keys a lot. And I'm wondering whether that's just like an incompatibility between like the Android system and the iPhone. And if that's the case, would it make more sense to like get something, if I'm wanting to use kind of Braille typing with an iPhone, whether it make more sense to get something like the Orbit Writer if I'm wanting to utilize that a lot, because I use speech a lot with my phone just because I'm not very good with the keypad on my phone, because I don't always want to speak into it. You know, sometimes I'm not wanting to do that.
Do you have one? That's this one's.
Okay, so let me first of all say that if you want to get the Braille Note Touch to work with the iPhone, and if you're determined to get it to work, you ought to be able, as a customer, to call HumanWord and have them walk you through the process and point you to the right documentation to use it. I'll say that first. Secondly, comparing carrying around the Braille Note Touch to the Orbit Writer, there's no comparison. The Orbit Writer will fit in a pocket or in a purse. It's a lot lighter and smaller. You don't have Braille, that's true, physical Braille dots that you can touch. But if your intent is to write on the phone in Braille so that you don't have to mess around with that finicky keyboard, the one thing I would point out about using Braille input on the iPhone is that I have not found that I can avoid fooling with the keyboard for every single thing that I do on the iPhone. I'm going to just say that as a matter of personal experience. I have trouble, for example, entering passwords in Braille on the iPhone. I have trouble, there was a time when I updated my phone last fall where in the email program, the mail client, the Braille didn't work the way it should, and sometimes it would crash the phone altogether. So, but from a physical standpoint, the writer would be way smaller, and if you're going to do a lot of Braille writing on the iPhone, you should seriously consider getting that as soon as it becomes available for $99, because that's a pretty sweet deal.
Okay, thank you.
Someone asked about Rite Aid prescription labels. As far as my quick Googling tells me that they have them at Rite Aid, but I don't know more than that.
Barbara?
There's a link on that.
My question again was about you had mentioned about the Orbit 20 Plus, and I was distracted by thinking about Scott LaBar and the Get on the Pack Plan song.
So what was your question on the Orbit 20?
The Orbit 20 Plus was, you had said something about that there was going to be a patch for it for the Orbit 20s.
No.
Is that what you said?
Not a patch. That you would have to. It would be a hardware upgrade, because I believe a lot of it's around the clock and a couple other things. So there will be a path from current 20 to 20 plus. I don't have the info yet. We put this type of stuff up on Blind Bargains, so when we learn about it, we'll put it up, or I'm sure Colorado will share it. But I don't have the exact details on that yet.
Yeah, I don't either, but I know they plan to do it. But the upgrade involves sending your unit in, and they have to actually physically replace the board with a new one. And they keep most of the unit except for the board, and then there's some manipulation to make the new board fit because it's slightly different in size and stuff. So they're going to announce a price for that when the time is right. Right now, they're not ready to take a lot of repair or upgrade orders because everybody that's working there is at home, right? Like the rest of us. So that's the reality we're living in now.
We got 4 more. Let's see if we can get through these 4 in 5 minutes. That's Wesley.
Hey, how's it going? Good. You guys were talking a little earlier about how the show, audio took the back seat, to our experience and such like that. And I have a related question when it comes to iPhone and iPads. I've run across a number of apps that are not, voice over enabled. So my question is do you think it's better that I go to the developer to cite the complaint or directly to Apple to cite the complaint?
Developer, for sure.
Developer, absolutely developer. You go to them and you yell at them and you say, Apple provides tons of guidance on how to work with VoiceOver. Go read it. Make your programmers do it.
I will say yell at, yes. But your first email can be a little more polite.
Right.
And if they seem to have some interest, then you can always point them to AppleViz and other resources that are out there.
Right, we've got
am I good?
There you go.
Yeah.
Alright, so I'm wondering if you guys know anything about dedicated players that can play board butts that.
Did you get? What was the question?
I didn't quite understand the question.
Hold on. So I was wondering if you guys knew about any audiobook players that would play back up board butts.
Using like cartridges or using downloaded files?
Using USB or really anything. So.
You talk about a commercial audiobook player or what? Because I can point you to a lot of blind-specific audiobook players.
Yeah. So like right now, I'm using the one that they provide, and this thing it's so good and handy, but this thing's so big that it's not really convenient to carry this thing around.
Which one are you talking about?
I'm talking about the one that they gave me.
The Bard player.
Oh yeah. Well, how much money do you want to spend?
Right.
That is the first question because the Bard mobile app will enable you to read Bard books on your iPhone. So and the battery drain isn't that bad. So
okay.
Yeah. I mean it's not the best because I mean if you compare the Victor Reader Stream with the iPhone in terms of how long the battery lasts, I can read for 12, 14 hours without recharging on the Victor Reader, but not on the iPhone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so like the thing for me is like my phone right now, it doesn't have the best battery life right now, and it drains pretty fast. So, yep.
Well, yep. So those are your options, yeah.
Yeah, those really are your big options. And I will say one thing though, there's a guy that I work with who has an iPhone. He has a Victor Reader Stream, and he was listening to podcasts on his phone. He had some very app-specific questions about the podcast thing, and I said, "Why aren't you listening to podcasts on your Victor Reader Stream? You listen to radio stations on your Victor Reader Stream." And it was a duh moment for him because he said, I didn't even think of that. So I thought that was kind of funny.
We got time for one more.
Hello.
Last one. Yep. Yeah. We're at
Yes,
the
I
end.
believe you just unmuted me.
Yep, you're there.
Awesome. This is thank you for an awesome session. Thank you, JJ, for blind bargains, because why on earth wouldn't we? And here's my bone for the day. Could you let us know, since you were at our convention in October, what are the new things out? I probably shouldn't even ask because my husband is already going, yes. But what new things are out that we should want to get our hands on?
I'd recommend getting this archive because that was like the first. I know you probably came in late. But
no, I've been here from the beginning.
So honestly, I mean, go to the quick answer because we're right up at the end of the hour is to go to Blind Bargains and you can check out all the CSUN and ATIA coverage, and that would be there hasn't been as many releases this year, so because the several new Braille displays and a couple other things, and the blind shower, the latest things that have come out. But if you go over to Blind Bargains,
no, I just meant interesting new things that are in your specific product line.
Oh, sure, yeah. Well, yeah. Feel free to I just put up a newsletter as well. That's over at atguys.com, and we will have some more stuff. I'm happy to be on for a couple minutes after. I think we're up at the hour. If they want to
I will say that,
I'm happy to be around for a few
because I
minutes,
don't
but-
work for you, JJ, that your audio demonstration of the blind shell was fantabulous. I mean, it was absolutely the thing
Awesome.
that got me to the point where I wanted to hype it with other people, because I thought, this graphically demonstrates how the blind shell works. So you can go to JJ's website and you can listen to the audio demonstration of the blind shell, and then decide for yourself if you want to get one.
Yeah, we just had we stuck it in Colorado because like the speakers that we had last fall and stuff, that's still the current one that we have for that, and keyboards, and the keyboards that we had, those are still the current things. So
those work great at chapter meetings, I must say. If you want to play the presidential release, they crank up the volume really nice. So
Ellen?
there you go.
Sure, we'll take Ellen. Why not? Hey, Ellen. How you doing?
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I thought that there was a simple way to use the iPhone camera to be a QR code reader, because recently I had something that supposedly had one on there, but I couldn't remember how to do it.
You mean like physically there's a simple way?
Well, I mean, I thought that was part of the camera, like you didn't have to get a separate app, that whatever, there's something native to iOS that would allow you to read a QR code.
I am not aware of
what
such.
QR codes are you trying to read? Because honestly,
I don't know. I was something on a piece of paper that led me to think that there was a QR code there.
Got you.
And I know there was some kind of code there because when I tried the Seeing AI, it sort of saw a barcode. But of course, since it wasn't a product, it didn't identify it.
I can use the camera with a QR reader app, but I have never been able
Yeah, you're gonna have to get an app.
a code up. Because
Any recommendations about an app?
So Peg says there's something under notes maybe that you might look at. She just put in the chat. So
yeah, I saw that.
Mm-hmm.
But my frustration is
a way to read the QR code through notes.
According to Peg, yeah.
According to Peg. But my problem again is unless you know exactly where it is, my frustration tolerance is very low when it comes to finding QR codes on stuff where I don't know where it is, and I eventually give up real quick. And if I really
some
am
cards
in a
have been
bind,
raised,
yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah. Or there are tips like on canned goods, for example, it's supposed to be where the label seam is. I mean, there's strategies that people have used, but once you put your hand on a more expensive barcode reader, it's very hard to go back to using the iPhone as a barcode, as a product reader, because it's just frustrating for me anyway.
Peg says there's also a thing in Blind Square if you happen to have that. There might be an option, but I think there also are some free things out there.
Well, Seeing AI, of course, will do it. And I thought Envision AI...
QR, though, I don't think it does QR specifically.
Oh, all right, okay.
Yeah.
I think we should run out of time.
Yeah, I think we are. So, I'll give my contact info, and you guys can give the Colorado stuff, or give yours, or whatever as well. I'm sure people have more questions. I don't mind hanging out here for a little longer, but... if you want to have any questions about AT Guys stuff, it is support@atguys.com. You can call and leave a message at 269-216-4798.
Try that again.
The phone?
Yeah, because it got clipped.
269-216-4798, and our warehouse is still operational. So we're
awesome.
Thank you so much for having me on. Appreciate it. Thanks, Curtis.
Thank you so much for being on. And again, if you would like to get a hold of us at the NFB of Colorado, assistance@nfbco.org. And thanks for joining our call, guys. Have a great night.
It's been a blast. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. I'll be here for a minute or two.
If anybody has a quick question, you're unmuted.
Turn on voiceover.
Okay, I've turned on voiceover.
Shouted in my ear.
Now what?
Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, you guys were up to close to 70 participants.
I saw that, yeah.
That's a lot of people.
I hope we make it so you guys have to pay for a bigger room.
Was the email address for the assistant, was that .org or .com?
NFBCO.org.
ORG.
might win. ATGuys.com/orbit.
And I'll check out the Freedom Scientific free JAWS thing. I gotta check that
It's
out.
right there on their homepage.
There's a bunch of free stuff. There's free Sirius XM radio right now.
I know,
A bunch of
I
TV
love-
stuff is free. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of interesting free things.
Oh yeah, I wonder if I could revive my trial account and play Sirius XM on
Yeah.
the radio.
I guess I'm not asking for a credit card.
Wow.
So I do the
Same. I haven't
$8 a
used
month.
Sirius
I do the
XM
$8 a month plan with them now. It's just online only. It works with Sonos. I'll talk all day about Sonos.
That's a pretty good deal, yeah.
Their Sonos speakers are super cool. I heard about the Sonos Move.
All
Everybody's
right, I gotta
talking
go
about
eat because
Sonos
I have a
Move.
7 o'clock. So
Sounds
thank
good.
you guys very
Alright,
much. Take
see
care.
ya.
Bye bye.
So yeah, the move is cool. The Sonos is cool and not cheap. So. Someone is texting and we can hear you texting.
Eventually got the Alexa show is because the iPhone QR code.
Answering my question, I will try to be more aware of what I'm asking him.
I'm actually upgrading my Brelson's
Someone is
Polaris
texting.
right
We
now.
can hear you texting. You might want to just. People don't think about that.
I'm upgrading my Brelson's Polaris. They have a new update out.
Oh yeah, it's out now. Cool. I just saw an email.
Yeah.
Cool.
Because it said Houston, we have a problem last time when they pulled an update, which was funny because I got the update on the computer side, like put the update on my SD card and put it on my Brelson's before they pulled it out, like right before they pulled it out. It was funny.
Barbara, did you still have a question?
Barbara, do you still have a question?
I can see your hand is still up. No, not anymore. Okay.
Yeah, oops.
There it goes.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you guys.
Have a
I'll
good
check
night,
Blind
everybody.
Bargains for this week. Thank you.
Awesome. Sounds cool.